We have breaking news tonight from the Washington Post. According to the Washington Post, Donald Trump wanted Attorney General William Barr to hold a press conference declaring that President Trump had broken no laws in his phone call with the president of Ukraine. William Barr didn't do it. And the Washington Post reports that Donald Trump has privately complained that, quote, he wished Barr would have held the news conference. Joining us now is Matt Miller, former spokesperson for the Attorney General Eric Holder, and an MSNBC contributor. Matt, not surprising. It's one of those Trump stories where it is both shocking and not surprising at the same time. Of course, he asked William Barr to hold a press conference when the transcript of the phone call with the president of Ukraine came out and have him simply absolve Donald Trump of any wrongdoing.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Lawrence. It is a completely inappropriate thing for a president to ask an attorney general to do, but you can see why Trump would do it. You would see why he would think that Barr would actually follow through and grant that request, given that this is basically what Barr did around the release of the Mueller report, where he held a press conference and cleared the president, despite the underlying findings of the report doing no such thing. So you start with that, and then you take his actions since then, where he has opened this investigation into the origins of the Mueller report that the president wanted. He's talked to the president about that report, kind of obliterating the line that's supposed to exist between the department and the White House. And you can understand why the president would think, well, look, this is just the kind of favor that Bill Barr regularly does for me, so I'm going to ask, and I expect that he'll do it. And I think the fact that he said no, that Bill Barr has been so willing to kind of sacrifice his own reputation for Trump in the past that he wouldn't do it here, shows just how heavy, how big a lift this would have been. Barr, I think, was more than willing to intervene on the president's behalf on the Ukraine scandal when it was private. He squelched a full criminal investigation into this phone call. He and the department blocked the whistleblower complaint for several weeks from being sent to Congress. I think they were happy to do it while it was public, but was private. But the minute it became public, it seems a little bit like John Bolton, where this is someone very smart, very seasoned, who said, I don't want any part of this drug deal.
And Matt, is it possible that William Barr already knew that the Southern District of New York was investigating the activities of Rudy Giuliani and his friends, his associates involving Ukraine, and this could just be an area that gets out of control?
I think so. They've said they were briefed. He was briefed to some extent. We don't know to what extent about those investigations. And I think your question gets at something that I've suspected for a while, which is there is something underlying at the department that we don't know yet. There's a reason why they've put out 3 statements distancing themselves from the Ukraine scandal. I don't know why, but there's something there they're worried about us finding out.
Matt Miller, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.